I've run 114 sessions as a Co-GM across multiple campaigns with multiple partners, and it's awesome. It lets you do stuff like this.
I'm jumping the chasm.
Jumping the chasm? Are you sure? Roll for athletics.
Stop doing that!
What'd you get?
7.
While having 2 people do the session prep feels like it should cut your work in half, it also frequently is the single most labor-intensive DMing I've ever done. But it's usually been worth it. Some of my best ever campaigns were that good because there were 2 GMs.
Oh yeah, it's worth it. If you're strong enough.
Welcome to Mystic Arts, where I'll take any excuse to show off my below average VFX skills. My name is Daði, I'm a professional writer and director, and I've been DMing for over a decade. It doesn't take long for someone to inevitably wonder, why can't 2 people GM at the same time? And it's a logical thought, isn't it? I've seen plenty of movies with 2 directors, Phil Lord and Chris Miller, Duffer Brothers, Coen Brothers, the Wachowskis. Surely 2 people can GM together. There is a reason so many famous director duos are siblings, because being a director, a lot like being a dungeon master, is a gut-based creative endeavor. It involves a lot of split-second artistic choices, and if you're sharing that responsibility with someone, then you better be prepared to like your partner's choices. And equally importantly, get to a point where 2 people make identical split-second decisions about their art right from their gut. But how do you do that? Or maybe there's a better place to start. Why would you want to do that? Because what is the appeal? Because depending on why you're doing it, you might be in for a disappointment. Because, and this is the biggest takeaway from this video, Co-GMing isn't less work. It's double the work, but there are 2 brains. You spend far less time trying to come up with something from scratch because the 2 people running the game can bounce ideas around, but you'll end up spending more time delegating tasks between the pair of you, like NPCs, maps, encounters. And you'll spend far more time communicating and pitching your idea to your partner because they have to understand it as well as you do. Otherwise, this whole thing won't work. Which is why the most important question to sort out early is, who's in the chair? Like, who is the captain of the enterprise?
Make it so.
Having 2 DMs is a lot like having 1 DM. Because in my experience, only one of us is actually ever the one running the game at a given moment. At any given moment, one of the 2 DMs is in the chair, behind the screen and running the game. The other fella is, in those moments, kind of like the second in command.
Hi.
So sort out early which one of you is normally the captain and who's normally the second.
Well, make it so, number 1.
These roles may imply a hierarchy, but there is a trick to this. You swap. I ran a seafaring campaign with my writing partner for some 55 sessions, and we usually divided the work like this. I'll run the start of each session, the character, dialogue, the big main factions, and what they're up to. He'll do the session's episodic plotline. In other words, he's the episode writer and I am the showrunner. They're on a ship and sailing, that's me. They arrived on the island and are searching for the dragon's lair, that's him. But then, like yin and yang, we've each got a little spot of the other. There's a little black spot in the white area, a white spot in the black area. So while we're on the ship and I'm in the chair, my partner plays the ship's first mate. That way he can influence those scenes as the first mate. When they're searching for the dragon's lair on the island and my partner's in the chair, he makes sure the party finds an adoptable kobold early on. That's me. That way I get to have fun while he's running the game. This little intruder spot, like the kobold, can pitch scenes. You know, in a situation where my partner DM is tired or feels like he's doing too much or whatever, I can swoop in as the kobold and have fun as the comic relief character with the party. I do think the kobold only wanted to be paid in silver pieces because according to the kobold, silver is shinier than gold. Obviously, this kobold had nothing to do with the plot, and inevitably the kobold is invited to join the ship's crew. Well, then he's mine because I'm in the chair when we run the ship. Seemed perfect. This is also true about the A plot and B plot. One GM takes care of the A plot, the other does the B plot. For instance, I usually ran the main plot in that adventure, the A plot, until they came to the city of Rothan. Then I became the B plot guy and my co-DM became the A plot guy for the entire city. He had good ideas for the city and I didn't. How do we get to that point? Well, we just talked about our ideas and had a frank discussion. We discovered his ideas were better than mine. When they left the city and went to Halfling Land, I became the main DM again. We just swap. Simple as that.
Make it so. Sir? Do it.
We're always just rotating in and out. People tend to think of co-DMing like 2 people running the game, but the truth under the hood is that it's a lot more like multitasking or tag team wrestling. Only one's in charge at a time, the other one's just always ready. One person's in charge, the other's the support. Riker, Picard. So what does the helper do? Well, it depends on your situation, where you run the game and all that. But for us, well, being a helper means that you sit next to the DM behind the screen and you'll run the initiative cards. You know, I put these trackers up on the screen. I manage the music from my laptop, so it's kind of like I'm the DJ for the main DM so that he doesn't have to worry about it. It also involves running the minion monsters or sidekick NPCs, or just plotting and scheming what happens when the players return to the helper's plotline. Sometimes, when I was the helper, I'd just start prepping the next bit of the session in a bit more detail in case they got there by the end. Ultimately, I was ready to stop doing that if I was needed to do some more active helping and covering gaps that needed covering. Because your main job as the helper DM is being ready to serve, being available, and more than anything, doing helping tasks without being asked, elevating the game by listening and doing what can be done to bring it to the next level. 2 DMs should have a higher production level than just one. Then the perks of 2 DMs. Well, certain things are a lot easier with 2 DMs, especially if the 2 DMs have very different skill sets. That way the 2 skill sets elevate one another. For example, I can make maps, my partner can't. My partner is much better at making encounters than I am, so now his games have better maps, my games have better encounters because we're making those games together. But the absolute best thing of 2 DMs is the double act. Whenever me and my partner were DMing together, any guards, shopkeepers, tavern patrons, crewmates, they all came in pairs. That way we could do a double act. We never planned these. It was just whoever's in the chair would say something like, there's 2 guards at the door. One is sort of short and the other one is tall and lanky.
I think I'm just gonna walk past them.
The short one stops you and says, no entry. King's orders.
I've got permission.
From who?
The Queen. She said we could enter.
Oh, the Queen. Does that count? Well, he said no entry. Right, but it's his wife, isn't it? Yeah, but I'm not going to get involved in his personal life. Yeah, not after last moon day. Yeah, poor Jimbo didn't see it coming. Oof. And suddenly we need to figure out what happened between the king, the queen, and poor Jimbo. These double acts are fun because you can always interject a little comedy into any scene if you want to. The technique here is an improv like classic. It's called put your partner in the shit. In the clip, Daði 1 says, not after last moon day, effectively putting Daði 2 in the shit. Now, Daði 2 has to elevate the scene, i.e. make it funnier, by saying what happened last moon day, despite the fact that this is the first he's hearing of it. It's comedy gold, especially when you watch it happen at the table. Co-GMing might be worth it for the double act alone. What if you had just one die? Not even polyhedral. What if it was a spinner and it would be every kind of die normally in a polyhedral set? This video is brought to you by Lord of the Dice 2. 1 dice to rule them all. Lord of the Dice 2 is the next generation upgrade of the original Lord of the Dice, which had over 4,000 backers and raised $370,000 on Kickstarter. The spinner cube replaces the entire set of polyhedral dice. And now it has interchangeable new surfaces. There are new prisms that accommodate a single spinner for players who only want specific spinners, and 12 new spinner designs, 6 Guardians of Light, and 6 Keepers of Darkness. And in the darkness binds them. Check out the Lord of the Dice Kickstarter on the link in the description and go grab a unique looking die that's like nothing else you have, with all of the polyhedral dice contained in one awesome spinning set. Like I mentioned earlier, it's important you each have ownership over certain story arcs, but also over NPCs. Maybe the king is a me character, whereas the queen is my partner's character. That way, scenes with them both allow for a double act, each playing one character. And then we also own their respective personalities and avoid having to voice each other's characters. Instead, just one of us owns this character, another one owns that character. It's way simpler. Sometimes we end up spending quite a bit of time deciding who's playing what character, especially if the party's coming to like a big city and we made up 12 NPCs for something, and now we gotta divide them between us, ideally in such a way that we can control the NPC important to our individual A-plots that we're overseeing, but also covering our bases for which characters are likely to talk to each other in some scene. You know, in case we want to make sure that we can get a good double act going. All in all, that entire organization can be a bit of work, which is why I stopped. Prep became harder when there's 2 DMs. Yes, we can divide the work. One of us preps the dungeon, the other preps the city map, whatever. But we spent a lot of time communicating. When I'm DMing by myself, I frequently prep for about 10 minutes before the players show up, and I spend the 20 minutes as they're all talking amongst themselves, prepping a little bit more, and in those 30 minutes, I can do all that prep at my laptop at the table. That is impossible with 2 DMs because you need to communicate out loud, which requires privacy if you don't want to spoil the players. These days, I don't have time for the required communication to make Co-GMing work. I started a campaign with my flatmate, 2 of us, a couple of months back, and I just never had time for it. I'm a lot busier now than I was a couple of years ago. This YouTube thing has changed my life and I'm thankful for it, but there are costs too. So after running a total of 114 sessions as a co-DM, 109 of them with the same partner the whole time, I only managed about 5 with my flatmate, and then I had to bow out. And I think that's the last of my co-GMing for the foreseeable future. It requires so much time to communicate to do it properly. There are other ways for multiple DMs to run games together that don't involve co-DMing, as in each DM just runs their own game and pieces the story together some other way, not at the table. For example, I've already made a video about my writing partner and regular co-DM Magnus running his own campaign set in the ancient history of my world because he wanted to run Odyssey of the Dragon Lords. He was running it in my world, but by setting it in the past, he could make it his own. Or multiple DMs can create a sandbox area where each DM runs plot threads that they're excited about. Say during a West Marches style game, the players book sessions and whichever DM picks up the mantle decides how to make that dungeon fit the particular adventure that the DM had planned. You know, if the players heard about the rumors of a Sahuagin lair, and I decide to DM it. But some other DM put it in there thinking it was about his fiend plotline, but I'm running it for my own Mindflayer plotline. Well, I make the Sahuagin be controlled by a Mindflayer Arcanist who they all think is a fiend. Easy. Now, Fiend DM's pitch works for my DM schemes, and many DMs running one West Marches together doesn't require any real communication. We all just yes and the collective pitch documents. You know, where the players store their rumors and plot hooks and so on Discord or wherever your West Marches game is being organized. If I were to embark on a DMing journey with multiple DMs these days, I think I'd rather pick either of those, West Marches or Shared World. But that's probably just because I'm busy. Co-DMing remains some of the most fun I've ever had behind the screen. So let's summarize why it works and what you need to keep in mind. And here again, the bottom line is something I wish I had explained to me when I started, is that co-GMing requires more work, not less. Because in addition to preparing the game, you now have to talk through your choices and your decisions with your partner. You have to plan where to hand off the reins to one another and prepare outlines together. You have to spend additional time communicating the direction with each other until you're both in agreement. You have to check in with each other regularly, sharing the workload. And sharing the workload can sound appealing until you realize how much work communication is and how much communication is required. I wouldn't recommend co-DMing with anyone that isn't your partner in one way or another. It doesn't have to be a romantic partner. I did it with my writing partner, but it has to be your partner, someone you spend a lot of time with, someone who you understand and enjoy working with. You've got to understand what they like, what they're likely to do, what excites them, what bores them, and what they want to do on a sort of moment-to-moment basis. Actually, this reminds me of a story I remember hearing years and years back. Apparently, a reporter that had been to several gigs was blown away by the dynamic jazz duo that is Elvin Jones and John Coltrane. So the reporter couldn't understand it. How do the two of them work together like that? How could they possibly be doing it? Was it telepathy? What's the secret? And Elvin Jones replied saying,
"You got to be willing to die with a motherfucker."
Damn right. I'm not big into jazz. I first heard this story from Uncle Matt on the video Trust and Earth Elementals, and it was one of 2 lines from that video that's been burned into my core memories of how to be a game master. The other one, of course, being,
"The Earth Elemental steps on your head to make sure you're dead."
Iconic video. If you're looking to start a campaign as one of 2 GMs, sharing the responsibility and both of you running at the same time, I would say you've got to do the following. 1. Make communication a priority. You need to be in a position where you're able to talk to your partner constantly and become thick as thieves, because this campaign is going to be your constant craft project, and that has to excite you. Prep is about to become a constant presence in your life. 2, make a good, rigorous outline. The two of you need to agree on the major level up moments, the shape of the adventure outline, what the villain of each book of the adventure is. If you're not sure how to outline an adventure, I'd recommend our video on building campaigns back to front for what that might look like. And I want you to notice, I didn't say rigid outline, I said rigorous, because it can fluctuate and change as the adventure gets played, but it needs to be rigorous with lots of bullet points and well understood by the pair of you. And this process may seem crazy intricate, but here's the secret. The two of you are working on becoming the same game master. 3, you gotta trust them, like really trust them. You two need to get to a point where you both understand what each other wants out of the campaign, and you need to be ready to help in that goal. But also, when one of them goes off on a tangent mid-session, running a series of encounters that the pair of you didn't prepare, you gotta let them cook. This is important. When things go out and they go wrong while co-GMing, the only cure is that one of the GMs shuffles around things until we're back on schedule. It's kind of like trust fall for GMing. You can do a bit of communication in the moment. We used to have a Discord chat with just the two of us in it, and we'd text each other messages going, hey, you need help with this? Do you need me to get us back on track? You'll know you're doing this right when your players begin to assume that you and your partner share some kind of mental telepathy. And this also means that when your partner screws something up, you are ready to bail them out. You might trust them to bail themselves out, but you are ready to help. You can't be out there thinking, hey, you got us into this mess, now you get us out. That's not a partnership, that's bitterness. Same goes the other way. If you screw up and your partner GM comes to the rescue, you gotta let them. Don't be so proud as to not accept their helping hand when they offer it. 4th, and finally, this is the most important out of everything we're talking about. If you're co-DMing, you have to want it. You could decide to run a game yourself without a GM partner. But for some reason, you've decided to embark on a campaign with 2 GMs. Why? Why did you do that? Maybe it's because you want to be creatively surprised by the GM despite being a GM. Maybe it's because you want to build out a campaign with your friend, your partner. Maybe it's because you think your creative partner has a lot to teach you, or you to them. Or maybe you want to see how another person prepares the game. I don't know. But whatever it is, hang on to it. Centralize your ideas on that desire that drove you to do this. Because I've run almost 100 campaigns and only a small handful were with a co-DM. And I learned so much from them. Not about co-DMing, but about different ways to DM, about DM styles, prep styles, about world building, improv, yes and who knows what else. But to be able to learn that much from it, you've got to remember why you're doing it. Because then you keep coming back to do it. And your GMing arsenal will grow with every session. And that's where we'll pick it up next time. Thanks so much for watching this video. This channel is run by me and my girlfriend. If you want to support us directly, we just released the GSS Centurion on Patreon, an adventure where you delve into a ruined spaceship and find all kinds of stuff from beyond this reality. If you're feeling especially generous, like, comment, share, subscribe, all those things. And until next time, keep studying the mystic arts.